From re-establishing USF's honors choir to performing with the Straz in Tampa and balancing theater, research, and leadership, Preston Kifer joins us this week to talk all about his honors experience. All that and more coming up next. Hey Honors Bulls, welcome to the Honor Roll Podcast, the flagship podcast of the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I'm your host, Caroline Merriman, a fourth-year student studying English and biology at the University of South Florida and a member of the Honors College. Today, my co-host is Fabiana Requena, a third-year student studying marketing and business analytics. Well, welcome back to the podcast, Fabi.
It's great to be here, Caroline.
So we always like to start off with the big question of the week. So my question this time is, were you ever a theater kid?
Actually, I was. So in fourth grade, my career started. I was in Horton Hears a Who, and I played a Who, so really small role. And then in fifth grade, I did The Wizard of Oz, and I was a Munchkin.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute.
And then in high school, I helped with like backstage stuff, like set design and like painting, and I really enjoyed it.
Oh, so you started young and then you switched lanes.
Yeah, I did.
To
I like the more backstage stuff.
Very professional, very mindful.
Yes.
Yeah. I was not. I had
I'm surprised.
one line in my fifth grade play, and that was where acting ended for me. That was where it ended. It was horrible. Well, speaking of theater, today we will be talking to honor student Preston Kifer as he shares his experience performing on the big stage and his involvement at USF ranging from theater to student government, being an RA, research, and working with ONS to study abroad. So stay tuned.
Explore the world of research with the University of South Florida Undergraduate Research Portal. This centralized online portal paves the way to exciting research opportunities filled with discovery and personal growth. It will connect you with the right research lab, professors, and mentor relationships at USF. The perfect research opportunity is just one click away. Search USF Research Portal or visit the Judy Genshaft Honors College website to learn more.
Hey Honors Bulls! Joining us today is Preston Kifer, a member of the Judy Genshaft Honors College with a passion for theater, advocacy, and community involvement. From starring in multiple productions to serving in student government, Preston has made the most out of his experience at USF. Welcome, Preston. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so as she said, my name is Preston Kifer. I'm a dual major in political science and theater with minor in legal studies. I'm a senior. I've kind of had my hands all over the university. I've been in stuff with theater. I've done a lot of stuff in the pre-law field and in political science, student government, on-campus positions, so I've kind of been all around.
So Preston, can you tell us why you picked to double major and how those two majors are interconnected?
Yeah, absolutely. I only started out as a sole political science major with plans to pick up a double major in philosophy and go to law school. And then I tried a philosophy class and found that I actually really hated philosophy. And so, but I had done theater for a very long time. And in my second semester of freshman year, I kind of was realizing that maybe I should be pursuing things that I'm passionate about and that I actually am interested in. So I started kind of tipping my toes into the theater stuff. And by my sophomore year, I was a double major in theater. And political science, I'd always been interested in politics and activism and social justice and social movement theory. So it kind of just made sense from the beginning to major in that for me. So, yeah.
So kind of like diving specifically into your interest for theater, you've been really, really successful in gaining a lot of experience. You've participated in theater for many years, now performing in 5 different shows with USF and many more with local theaters. So what drew you to pursuing the major in theater in the first place?
Yeah, I actually just opened a show. We were talking about it earlier, but I just opened a show last night, Resistible Rise of Arturo, and that'll be my 39th show overall. So I've been doing theater since 4th grade, so that's almost 12 years now. And the question was, what drew me to pursuing theater?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's just always been a part of my life. I've always been drawn to storytelling, to creating art, to kind of just expressing myself through unconventional means. and I don't know, there's nothing else that I found in my life that kind of allows me to express myself in a way that theater does. I don't know. It's just no experience like it for me. It's just it brings me joy. You know, it brings me satisfaction and fulfillment in life.
So you mentioned you started in around like fourth grade, getting involved with the theater. I'm sure that a lot of students who are listening were involved in theater in high school. So what is it like to study theater at a university level?
I don't know. I don't think it's that much different from doing community or high school theater. I think the only difference is that everyone you're performing with is compared to a community theater. Everyone you're performing with is around your age. I always say that the joke is that I just go to rehearsal for 4 hours and I just hang out with my friends is pretty much what rehearsal is for me. It's really not that much different. I mean, maybe it's a little bit more competitive because there's more people, and people are, deciding to go into it for their career. But yeah, I mean, I think it's not much different. Yeah, I mean, obviously you're studying more in your classes and you're learning more about specific theories and different plays and stuff. But I mean, I don't think it's just a little bit more competitive, I think.
Do you feel like you have a little bit more guidance?
How do you mean?
In terms of like your professors?
Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of guidance. Because we have mentors or professors that we selected as mentors are supposed to help us and guide us through the process of being in the field of theater. But honestly, I mean, I feel like in high school and community theaters, because theater is such a collaborative art that in every setting of theater, whether it's high school, community, professional, college, there's always been people that are around to help mentor you because everyone I guess, not just in the field of art, but theater is looking to help each other out and kind of boost each other up. So
did that like help you with like the college transition? I know like a lot of people struggle to like find a community or a group of strong friends. Like, was the theater community helpful in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think artists and actors and singers, they're some of the most welcoming community you can find anywhere you go. Because I could go to across the country and start doing theater there and probably immediately find a home there because I have people who I can just kind of connect with because people they understand the experience of being an artist or an actor. So yeah, absolutely, it definitely did help the college transition because I've met some of my closest friends just by doing a show with the USF or taking classes in the theater department.
So I'm curious to know if you have like a specific performance that has been your favorite throughout your time. I know you've been through, you said like 39?
Yeah.
So can you pinpoint one or a couple?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my most favorite experience, it's definitely a production I did called Ride the Cyclone, which opened last October. And we sold out every single show, and we had lines going out the building to be able for people to see the show. I think we had to turn a couple hundred people away, so yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we had to. It was really sad. We were trying to add more shows, but we couldn't because of production cost and reasons. But the reason that show is my favorite, not because it was just an amazing show, but because the response to it is I'm still getting recognized in public for that show. I'll go out on a Saturday night and I'll be at dinner or I'll be at other places and people will be like, you're Misha in Red Cyclone, right? And it's still happening. It happened on Halloween actually. And also people made fan edits on TikTok.
No way.
Yeah, there was a Mitski edit that someone made. People also drew fan art of that show, which I have saved in my favorites folder on my phone. So just because of that, that's probably one of my favorite shows. But another, I did Newsies when I was in high school with the Strat Center. And that was just technically one of my favorite productions, or from the technical aspect, and also the performances were phenomenal. And probably just to throw a play in there, I'd say the Diary of Anne Frank, which I did in 8th grade with a community theater in Delaware when I lived in Delaware, because that was just a really beautiful show. So those are my answers.
That's so cool that you're like out here getting recognized like a local celebrity.
It's scary.
On our podcast.
It's scary because like I'll just like I'll be eating my food and someone will come up to me. I was at Chick-fil-A a couple months ago with my friend who was in the show, and someone comes up to us as we're trying to eat our food and starts tapping us on the shoulder and is like, "You guys were in the show, right? We recognize you." And it's cool, but it's like, oh, I'm just a guy, you know. I'm just I don't know.
Have you ever given an autograph?
I have not. I've not given an autograph. I'm not.
We'll have to get one today.
Yeah.
course.
Before you
Be the
get
first
too
ones.
famous, then one day I can sell it on eBay
Yeah.
for copious amounts of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And pivoting back to your other major that we mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
which is political science. What is it like studying that discipline at USF, and what have you gotten out of that degree that maybe you haven't gotten out of, theater?
Well, theater by nature obviously is going to be a lot more practical and hands-on than political science, because what we do in political science is much more theoretical. A lot of reading, a lot of writing, a lot of talking, a lot of arguing, debating. I think I got more of a academic push from my political science courses, and got me more into research and kind of working for a more scholarly kind of degree. Not to say that you can't do that in theater, because there are degrees you can find in dramaturgy or performance studies or a theater research that you can pursue, or whether it be a PhD or master's or what have you. But it definitely pushed me more towards research and finding my interests in what I want to do, how I can combine the practical aspects of theater with my more theoretical frameworks that I found in political science.
How do you find that the two, especially through research, are interconnected? What do you hope to do with the two in the future?
So the current thesis I'm working on right now is combines the two disciplines. So my thesis surrounds declining social protests and how they were once effective, but despite having so many protests nowadays or so many movements, we aren't seeing as many legislative changes happening that are being pushed from protests. There are certain theories from theater work that are one being theater of the press, which seeks to kind of unchain the audience from their passive role and put them into the active role within the theater, hoping to inspire them to create change in their own local communities. So there's other theories, but that's one of the main ones. So taking those kind of theories from theater and kind of attaching it to the social theories of like neoliberalism, capitalism and declining protests, and taking those and combining those two together to see how we can use theater and certain theories in theater to inspire people to create change, create revolution in their own little communities.
That's really cool. We get a lot of students on this podcast who do like biomedical research. So it's really cool to hear about like the humanities research and things like that are a bit, they're not as mainstream, I guess.
Yeah.
What was there a specific moment or like experience that inspired you to like investigate this topic?
I don't know. I mean, I have been involved in protests. I've been involved in sit-ins and vigils and all these other types of things since high school, and I've been always interested in protests and movement theory. I mean, especially with everything that's happening nowadays. I don't know. I think it's really important to be able to voice your opinion, make yourself heard, and be able to speak up about the things you care about and make changes to the world that you want to see. I don't know. It's always just been kind of something that's been at the forefront of my mind, I think.
Can you walk us through a little bit more of your undergraduate research?
Yeah. So I, when I was trying to kind of find myself and figure out what I wanted to do, I took on a couple of random internships because I was just like, resume. But one of the internships I took on was it was called the Beat Society in Washington, and they helped me publish a research paper. My first thesis was about the origin of gun culture in the United States. That was my freshman thesis, and it was bad. It didn't make any sense, and it was very convoluted. And I was like, well, I think this is an interesting topic, but I think there's something more interesting I can kind of look into. And so then I started looking to this idea of the decline of protest culture through economic practices of the 1980s with neoliberalism and other things. And I started working on a research paper with Dr. Peter Finke as an advanced undergraduate research experience. I did that over summer. I worked on a paper with him. And then I took that and I took it to my my internship where I started working on the paper with them, and I kind of pivoted because AI was kind of becoming a big thing then, and political polarization was kind of at coming to a peak. So I started looking at AI in social media and how that kind of can inspire political polarization, because AI algorithms can track your preferences with scary predictability, and they can show you information that kind of really confirms your beliefs and puts you in an echo chamber. So I was looking at how that can further divide us politically, and I published a research paper on that with the Beat Society, and now I'm kind of back to working on the social protest theory, but with the new added element of theater on it for my thesis.
Well, congratulations on your publications. That's really hard to get. I did want to ask, has this research changed how you view your art or how you view political science?
Yes, it has. When I was in high school, I didn't really ever consider theater as like an academic discipline, which is silly because it is. I just always considered it from a performance standpoint, or from a musical, and just from like acting and singing and dancing, which is, it's fine. And, I still do that, and I still love to be a part of that. But looking through the theories of political science kind of made me realize that there's more that I can do with theater, which opened my eyes to kind of the more academic side of theater, through dramaturgy, through the kind of theories I was talking about, through performance research and performance study degrees. So yeah, it kind of showed me that theater isn't just about performance. While it is, the main aspect of theater, there's a lot more to it.
My name is Lindy Davidson. I am the Associate Dean for Academic Affairs in the Judy Genshaft Honors College on the Tampa campus. If you're thinking about joining the Judy Genshaft Honors College, don't do it. Don't do it unless you are really interested in growing, because this is a place where people grow. So come here, bring your ideas, bring your perspectives, but you should expect that other people's perspectives and ideas are going to be different from yours. You're going to learn from them, and you are going to grow with them. This is a space of collaboration, and growth can be really challenging. So if you're up for that, please come and join us.
I wanted to pivot the conversation and talk a little bit more about your honors experience. How do you think that the Honors College has supported your academic and professional endeavors?
Yeah, so I was really involved with the Honors College when I was a freshman, sophomore. I did stuff, obviously, with the Honors Choir and being a peer mentor and this, that, and the other, being involved with ONS and all the events we have going on. But it really helped me academically, because it kind of showed me interesting academic subjects. Like, I took some of the arts and humanities classes, which showed me with Dr. Jeffrey Donnelly, which he had like dance classes and music classes, which I was really interested in. That kind of showed us how to use theater or music and dance in kind of a more academic setting, which I know I kind of talked about how political science kind of helped me realize some of these things, but also some of these classes were really pushing a lot of my research, and also doing my research with Dr. Peter Funke.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about like honors college is like we can kind of reframe like how we think about like what is research and what is academic, because our classes are so interdisciplinary and they bring all of those things together. I do want to touch back on your mention of the honors choir. You actually helped revive the honors choir during your early years at USF. Could you talk about what inspired you to, kind of take up that cause?
Yeah. So I remember sitting in my acquisition of knowledge class freshman year, and my professor saying that there was once it was like this fabled thing in honors choir. And I was just, I don't know, I was really looking for things to get involved with and kind of just put on my plate, because I had a lot of free time in my hands, as I'm sure a lot of people do when they start out college. And so I really wanted to get involved, and this is before I kind of got back involved in theater through college. And so I was like, this seems like a perfect opportunity for me to kind of get my foot in the door doing things with the honors college while also doing something that I'm passionate about. Because while I decided I did theater for 12 years, I also did choir for, oh my gosh, probably longer than theater. And I've been in tons of different choirs. So it was just another thing, a passion project for me.
So since you kind of helped reestablish the honors choir, can you tell us a little bit more about how you hope to see it grow?
Yeah, so it's now in its 4th year, which is crazy to me. Recently, they were invited to, I think it was over the summer, they were invited to join Professor Alyssa Jones in her trip to Carnegie Hall, which will be coming up in May. I really like to see kids from this choir keep doing stuff with other opportunities within the School of Music or within the School of Theater. Maybe start their own ensembles. Because I really want this to be a yearly thing, which I think it has become kind of a yearly thing because now it's a recognized ensemble by the USF School of Music. It's a class you can take and have on your transcript. So yeah, I just want it to be something that inspires other people to create more art and music within the Honors College.
Kind of like, I guess, circling back, could you talk about more of like what your role was while you were in the honors choir? Like, what was it like to help like rebuild, I guess?
In the early years, Dean Adams called us the rogue choir because we kind of didn't really, I don't know, we were kind of just doing our own thing. I remember before we had this building, we had to do our rehearsals in USF and the John Grayson Allen building in one of those classrooms, which, yeah, they were kind of rough. I remember I reached out to the School of Music to see if there were any graduate students who could play piano for us, but we didn't have a piano. So I had to bring in this like really crappy toy piano for this professional student to play. And I remember the first rehearsal, she got really mad at us when she walked in because she's like, because we didn't have a real piano, and she was very very, very upset with us. But after we moved on from that, I kind of just. I was the conductor and president, so I'd teach students the music and I would organize all of our events. And then I would conduct the choir when we had concerts. But eventually, as we moved into our second year, we got a rehearsal room in the School of Music. So we actually had a real piano, and I got one of my friends who's a pianist, Sophia Montejo, who I think was on this podcast at one point.
She was.
Yeah, she's a great pianist. She's still playing for the choir. I got her to be the accompanist, and I started recruiting my friends to kind of be on the e-board, kind of help me out with all these tasks. And then we got Professor Alyssa Jones, who is the person going to Carnegie Hall, to kind of sit in on rehearsals, to kind of watch over us, because I'm not a trained teacher or conductor. I was kind of just making it up as I went along, to kind of watch over us and see how things were going. And eventually, we got the building opened, and then we got Adam, Mr. Davidson, kind of helping us out, and then he started conducting for the choir. And then I decided to step down from the position of president when I was a junior, to kind of, which actually was advice from Dr. Davidson. She said, to let it grow beyond yourself, you kind of have to let other things happen. So I did, and now it's kind of grown beyond me, and it's become its own thing. It's its own living, breathing thing. So that was long-winded, but yeah.
I think that's really great advice that she was able to give you. As a person that's like really successful in both fields, in both of your disciplines, what would you say to students that are considering picking up something like theater or music or dance in addition to their other academic discipline?
I would say to them that make sure, one, you have the time, because with theater, just being a show, like we rehearse 5 to 6 days a week. So make sure you have the time and the ability, one. Two, make sure it's something you're actually passionate about. Because I am very passionate about political science and the stuff I do that with there, but my real passion is theater and the arts. So I would tell them, do it, yes, but be passionate about it and the things you do with it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice for a lot of our students, just to kind of like throw yourself into, whether it's theater or something else, like throw yourself into whatever you're passionate about as early on in college as you can, because you're never going to have more time than you do in like your freshman and sophomore year. You did mention Office of National Scholars earlier. Could you talk a little bit about your time working with them and how it's like impacted your experience at USF?
Yeah, so I started working with Dr. Boston when I was a freshman, because I remember someone told me about him and it was like, you gotta work with him, man. He's gonna get you right. And so I started meeting with him, and there wasn't much for him to do with me yet, because I was still a freshman. There wasn't many opportunities for me to apply to yet. But I kept meeting with him consistently, and while I haven't won anything significant from ONS yet, which, is what it is, there's still a couple scholarships we're waiting on. Like, I was one of the Marshall candidates, and I put in a Fulbright application. But I think really what matters about ONS is it's kind of a process of becoming. Like, if I had not been working with Dr. Basu, I may have ended up a double major in philosophy and political science, or I may have been trudging down the path to law school, because he's kind of shown me how I can pursue my passions and how it's important to pursue my passions and live with the things I care about, rather than just caring about a paycheck, which obviously is important, but it's not the most important thing at the end of the day. And in addition to that, it's made me, I think, a pretty good writer because he has a lot of writing classes and studios.
You mentioned you applied to the Fulbright. What would you say like drew you to that, and what do you want to do in the future?
The Fulbright, I wanted to do a Fulbright because I've never been out in the country and I really would like to study abroad. And since I do theater, I applied to a Fulbright in the UK, and obviously Marshall is the UK too. And I was applying to places in London and around Birmingham, Stratford-upon-Avon, which obviously London is a epicenter for theater because of the West End. But Stratford-upon-Avon is birthplace of Shakespeare, spot of the Royal Shakespeare Company, all these other Shakespeare stuff, Shakespeare Festival. So, because theater in London, or in the UK in general, is just so much more interesting to me, because it's a lot more based on community partnership rather than kind of pursuing a profit or working for the audience. And that's just something I really wanted to experience that I think would be really kind of integral to my experience as an artist, is experiencing other cultures of theater. So that's why I wanted to why I pursued the Fulbright.
I think there's a lot to learn abroad, so I think it would be really beneficial for you to go study there.
Absolutely.
You also mentioned that like you kind of used ONS and like applying for scholarships as a way to like kind of find yourself. What advice would you give for other students who maybe like they're interested in prestigious scholarships, but maybe they don't know exactly like what they want to do yet?
Well, I think I would tell them to just reach out to ONS, reach out to Dr. Brasu, to one of the Laurens, to Brett, and kind of just have a talk with them about what your interests are, what they might be, what you think you might want to do. Because I'll tell you, my plan has changed probably 30 times since, talking to Dr. Brasu, because there's a point at which I was like, yeah, I'm going to be philosophy. Yeah, I'm going to go to law school. Yeah, I'm going to do AI stuff. And now here I am doing theater. So, It is a long process. I'd recommend starting it as soon as you can, because if you start trying to find yourself in your senior year, it's gonna be a tough time. But take your time, meet with them, just talk, just have a conversation.
Speaking of your future endeavors, what do you hope to do beyond USF? So after you graduate,
that is the question of the hour. I've been pursuing graduate degrees. I'm pursuing graduate degrees right now, or applying to them in a lot of theater-based stuff. I'm applying to degrees in dramaturgy. I'm applying degrees in theater management, theater production. I'm looking at potential performance degrees, directing degrees, MFAs. And I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens, because all of these paths would be of interest to me. So no matter what happens, I'm going to end up in some city, hopefully New York, possibly Chicago, maybe Boston, just somewhere where there's theater happening, that I can pursue theater. Because long term, I really would like to pursue an MA or MFA, then potentially either a PhD or law school, and then be able to own my own theater company, potentially be a professor, act locally, produce art, because there's actually someone in the Honors College, Professor David Jenkins, who basically does that, because he's the artistic director for JobSite, which is one of the largest theaters in the Tampa Bay area, while he's a professor, while he's producing shows, while he's acting, because he was just in, what was it called? The Boy Who Loved Batman, which is a play that just premiered at the Straz. So doing something like that, I think, is what I hope my future will look like.
That's super cool.
Thank you.
Has applying to like a arts master's been different than you expected?
It's about what I expected, honestly, because they just want a lot of portfolio stuff. They want to see, evidence of your performance ability, or in the case of dramaturgy, your ability to analyze texts, write, create things. But with some of the more production-based degrees, it's more typical, like, personal statement, resume, letters of recommendation. But so, yeah, it's probably about what I expected, I think.
specifically here at USF, can you tell us about like your most rewarding endeavor?
Yeah, I think I think it's definitely been performing on stage at USF. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but for me, there's no other feeling like performing. There's something, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's kind of an ineffable feeling to be able to perform for people and make people laugh, make people cry, make people, scooch up to each other a little bit closer. I don't know. It's very rewarding for me. It's what I love to do. It fulfills me. So any chance I get to perform is just whenever I'm proudest of my time at USF.
And kind of as our last question to wrap up, looking back now as we've kind of been perusing your years at USF, is there a piece of advice or something you would tell to a younger self?
Chill out. Calm down. You're going to be just fine. Just pursue what you love to do and things will work themselves out. Get involved. Learn to say no to things that you don't have time to, and learn to say yes to the things you want to do. I think that's what I would tell myself if I could meet my younger self.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're going to have the masses flocking to the USF Theater to see your show this week. But yeah, thank you for joining us. That's all the time we have. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast with us.
Yeah, it's been really great to be here. So thanks you guys for having me.
Thanks, Preston.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, we are back in the studio, and I enjoyed that podcast so much. I love how students in the Honors College study things in so many different disciplines, and it's really inspired me to get back more into the discipline of art. I love making art, and I really like live performances, whether that's theater or music, dance. I love it all.
Yeah, I think it was really fun to just hear how excited he was to talk about his roles in different, theater performances and things like that, and how he's used it with research. And I can say I'm ready to go see a play this weekend.
Yeah.
And, speaking of events at USF, don't forget to check the Honor Roll newsletter and our website at usf.edu/honors for all upcoming events, updates, and news. That will do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genshaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by students Sandra Napolitano and Andrew Young. Thank you all so much for listening, and please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We greatly appreciate your feedback. Please tune in next week where we hear more honor stories and talk to more members of the Judy Genshaft Honors College.
Until next time, go Bulls!